The shout sliced through Terminal C like a shockwave. "Stop her! That girl stole my dog!" Every conversation dropped mid-sentence. People froze. A white woman in a pressed blazer stood trembling with rage, pointing straight at a 12-year-old black girl who sat clutching a tiny golden puppy. Her voice carried the kind of force that made people move before thinking. The girl's voice did not. "I didn't. I was just," she whispered, the words barely escaping her throat. No one cared. The woman's anger swallowed the air around them. Security officers rushed toward the scene. Phones rose. The puppy whimpered against the girl's chest. And no one in that terminal had any idea how wrong everything was about to get. Because the truth, simple, innocent, undeniable, was seconds away from colliding with one woman's assumptions in the ugliest possible way. Welcome back to Real Stories Unfiltered. If you're here for the first time, hit like and subscribe as we dive into real moments that expose who we are when the world is watching. Tell me where you're watching from. This one will shake you. Her name was Carrie James. And before this whole mess began, before the recording started, before she was accused, before the crowd took sides, her day had begun with something simple, something gentle, something that should have led to a calm, ordinary flight. Hours earlier, Carrie stood in her grandmother's warm kitchen, watching Miss Hattie iron a sky-blue dress with slow, practiced strokes. This wasn't just getting ready. This was a ritual. Her grandmother's hands moved with purpose, smoothing every wrinkle as if she were pressing wisdom into the fabric. "Baby," her grandmother said softly, "you don't control how folks act, but you control who you are, and we don't let anyone take our dignity, ever." Carrie didn't know how soon she would need those words. It was her first time flying alone. She was heading to Dallas to visit her aunt while her grandmother recovered from surgery, but she wasn't nervous. She stood with the quiet confidence of a girl raised by someone who taught lessons through stories. Stories about family members who held their heads high in the face of injustice, who chose kindness when anger was easier, who did the right thing even when no one clapped for them. Her grandmother held her hand on the drive to the airport. "How you react to unfairness, baby. That's who you truly are." Carrie nodded, absorbing the lesson without knowing today would test it harder than anything in her 12 years of life. Her unaccompanied minor check-in was smooth. Staff clipped the badge around her neck, explained the rules, wrote her aunt's name on the forms, and led her to gate C12. She settled into the row meant for kids traveling alone and opened the book her grandmother packed. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt dangerous until she spotted it. A tiny golden puppy wandering near the walkway, shivering and confused. Way too small to be loose in a busy airport, its little tail stayed tucked. Each step looked hesitant. Dozens of passengers walked right past, barely noticing. But once Carrie saw it, she couldn't ignore it. She watched for someone searching, a worried owner, an announcement, anything, nothing. So she got up, crouched slowly, and whispered, "Hey, little one, where's your family?" The puppy sniffed her fingers and melted into her hands like it had been waiting for someone gentle enough to notice. She lifted it carefully and sat back down, holding it so no one stepped on it. She asked a few travelers nearby if they'd lost a dog. No one had. 20 minutes passed. The puppy trembled the whole time. And then the storm arrived. Her name was Melanie Carter, 42, loud, sharp heels, sharper temper. The kind of person who believed inconvenience was a crime against her personally. She'd been at the airport lounge with coworkers, sipping a drink, when she suddenly panicked about her emotional support dog. Instead of checking the carrier properly, instead of asking staff, instead of thinking, her mind leapt to one conclusion: someone took my dog. And when she saw Kari, young, black, alone, holding a similar puppy, she didn't hesitate for even one breath. She charged through the terminal like a missile. "That's my dog! Give her back right now!" Carrie jumped, startled by the explosion of anger. "Oh, are you her owner?" she asked, relieved. "I found her near—" "Don't you lie to me!" the woman snapped, face twisted with disgust. Carrie froze. Melanie stepped closer, her words sharper now. "You people always have a story ready." The atmosphere thickened. A few passengers inhaled sharply. Some exchanged looks. Most understood exactly what You people meant. Kari tried again, voice shaking. I wasn't trying to take anything. She was just walking alone and looked scared. The puppy pressed itself deeper into Carrie's arms, far from the woman claiming ownership. Melanie didn't notice or didn't care. That's my emotional support animal, she screeched. You stole her. I want security here this second. Her voice rattled the entire gate passengers gathered. Phones pointed, whispers swirled, and Carrie, alone and terrified, realized something devastating. This woman didn't want the truth. She wanted someone to blame, and she had already chosen who. Kari's hands tightened around the puppy as the woman stepped even closer, her voice rising with every breath. People began drifting toward the scene, drawn by the chaos the way crowds gather around a fire. Every angle of the terminal now had a pair of eyes locked on the trembling girl and the furious woman towering over her. Give me my dog, right, now. Carrie swallowed hard. Ma'am, I really found her by the seats. I was just trying to help. No, you were trying to steal, the woman snapped. Don't pretend you didn't know exactly what you were doing. These dogs cost thousands of dollars. You think you can just grab one and walk away? Carrie's throat tightened. The puppy whimpered and nudged closer to her chest, as if sensing the danger. The woman reached out, but the puppy squirmed away from her hand. That tiny movement should have made Melanie stop and think. It should have made her question her assumption. It didn't. People in the crowd began murmuring. A few eyebrows lifted. A man in a suit whispered to his wife, that dog doesn't look like it knows her. But Melanie wasn't listening to anybody, not even reality itself. I knew it, she hissed, glaring at Carrie. You've confused her. That's what you people do. You manipulate. You pretend to help so no one questions you. There it was again. You people. Loud. Clear. Meant to sting. Something in the air shifted. Several passengers gasped. A woman shook her head in disbelief. Someone pulled out their phone and started recording more deliberately now. Carrie felt the weight of dozens of eyes. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She tried to speak, but her voice came out tiny. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong. Melanie scoffed. Of course you were. Don't play innocent with me. Someone call security. Right now. A teenage boy near the back muttered, Security's already coming, lady. He wasn't wrong. 2 officers were pushing through the crowd. Kari's knees shook. She'd never been in trouble before. She'd never had anyone yell at her like this. She thought about her grandmother's voice, soft but firm. You hold your dignity. Nobody gets to take it. So she sat a little straighter. Not much, just enough to tell herself she wasn't going to crumble. As the officers arrived, Melanie switched instantly into performance mode. Hands waving, voice louder, breath shorter. Thank goodness. Arrest this child. She stole my emotional support dog. I walked away for 1 minute, and suddenly she's sitting here holding her. I want her detained immediately. One of the officers held up a hand. Ma'am, we need to hear from both of you. What more is there to hear? Melanie barked. She's holding my dog. It's obvious. The other officer crouched slightly to look at Carrie. Miss, did you take the dog? Carrie shook her head fast, terrified but steady. No, sir. She was wandering by herself. I thought she might get stepped on. I was trying to find her owner. Before the officers could ask more, a woman stepped from the crowd, a silver-haired lady with a steady gaze. I saw the whole thing, she said. This young girl was trying to help the little puppy. She asked people around her if they'd lost a dog. She's been sitting right here calmly the whole time. Melanie spun around like she'd been slapped. Of course you defend her. You don't understand what's happening. A collective groan passed through the crowd. Someone whispered, she's losing it. Another person muttered, this is embarrassing. The older woman folded her arms. What I understand, she said calmly, is that you're accusing a child of theft with absolutely no evidence? Melanie's face tightened, a mix of anger and panic. She pointed again at Carrie. I want that dog back, and I want her punished. If you don't handle this, I'll file a formal complaint. The puppy, in response to her loud demand, began shaking so hard that its tiny body trembled against Carrie's arm. Carrie lowered her head, whispering, It's okay. You're okay, into the puppy's soft fur. That image, this small girl comforting a frightened animal while an adult screamed at her, cracked through the crowd's silence. People shifted uncomfortable. A young mom whispered, "She's just a kid." The officer took a breath. "Ma'am, do you have any proof the animal belongs to you? Papers? Photos? Anything?" That question was the beginning of Melanie's unraveling. Her eyes widened, briefly, before she lunged into her purse, digging through it like she expected proof to magically appear there. "Of course I do," she snapped. "Hold on, just give me a second." She took longer than a second, a lot longer. She pulled out receipts, gum wrappers, a crumpled boarding pass, a stress ball, 2 tubes of lip gloss, but no dog photos, no vet papers, nothing. People exchanged looks. Finally, she lifted her phone. "I have pictures here. I know I do." She scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. Her fingers shook. When she finally stopped and held up a photo, the officer leaned closer. It wasn't the same dog. The puppy in the photo had darker fur, a different face, and looked older. Even the crowd could tell from a distance. "That's not the same puppy," someone in the back called out. Melanie's jaw clenched. "It's just the lighting, or the angle. It's the same dog." The officer shook his head gently. "Ma'am, this doesn't appear to be the same animal." Carrie looked down at the tiny puppy curled into her arms. The puppy wasn't confused. The puppy wasn't scared of her. The puppy had chosen her. But Melanie wasn't ready to let go of her story. Not even close, she stepped forward, finger raised, voice cracking as the crowd watched her unravel. "I don't care what anyone says. That girl stole my dog, and I'm not backing down." The room went silent. What she didn't know was that the truth, real, undeniable truth, was already making its way toward Gate C-12. And when it arrived, her entire world was going to collapse in front of everyone watching. A low static buzz broke through the tension as one of the officers lifted his radio. The crackling sound cut through the crowd like a warning signal. Everyone went quiet. Even Melanie paused, her chest heaving as she waited for the officer to speak. "This is Officer Daniels at Gate C-12, he said. "Do we have any reports of a missing dog in the terminal? Medium or small breed, golden in color." Every eye stayed glued to him. The answer coming through that radio could expose everything. For a moment, the only sound was the airport's distant announcements echoing through the terminal. Then the radio crackled again. "Copy that, Daniels. We have a report from Terminal B. A family lost a golden retriever puppy about 2 hours ago near the food court. They're searching the terminal now." A wave of whispers rolled through the crowd. A family, a lost puppy, not an emotional support animal, not a stolen dog, a real missing pet. Kari felt her breath catch. Melanie's face twitched, just for a moment, before she forced her expression back into anger, refusing to acknowledge the blow. "That report is wrong," she barked. "They're probably confused. That's my dog." Daniels glanced at her, then at the trembling puppy tucked between Carrie's arms. He seemed to be measuring the truth by observing both of them. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "your evidence doesn't match the animal." Melanie crossed her arms tight against her chest, her voice sharp with desperation. "I told you, dogs grow, dogs change. That photo was taken a month ago. Obviously, she looks different." The crowd didn't buy it. Someone muttered, "She's reaching now." A teenager near the front whispered, "Just admit you're wrong, lady." But Melanie couldn't. Something in her refused to even consider the possibility. Another officer gently asked, "Where did you last see your dog?" "At the lounge," she snapped. "For how long was she out of your sight?" Melanie froze, just for a beat. Just a minute, maybe 2. From the crowd, a man in a blue jacket raised his hand. "I was at the bar. She didn't take any dog out of the carrier the entire time." His voice was calm but sure. "She talked about having one, but the carrier stayed zipped." A second witness chimed in. "Yeah, I was sitting next to her with my laptop. I never heard or saw a dog the whole time. Thought it was odd." Melanie's anger began cracking, tiny fractures forming beneath the surface. "You're all mistaken," she said through clenched teeth. "I know my own dog." Before she could continue, the radio crackled again. "Daniels, we have another update. The abandoned dog carrier found near Terminal B matches the description of the woman asking about her emotional support animal earlier today. A gasp spread through the crowd. Daniels lifted his eyebrows. An abandoned carrier? And one more thing, the dispatcher added. Security located the emotional support dog this lady reported missing, a small golden retriever mix. The dog is currently safe in our office. Retrieved about an hour ago near the security checkpoint. Melanie's face drained of color. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Her dog had never been stolen. Her dog had never been in Kari's arms. Her dog had been found by airport staff long before she ever began accusing anyone. The truth wasn't just catching up to her. It had run her over. The crowd erupted into murmurs. So she accused the kid for nothing? She didn't even lose her dog? She caused all this chaos over a mistake? But the turbulence wasn't over. As the officers absorbed the information, Melanie lunged forward one more time, reaching toward Kari, and the puppy reacted first. The tiny dog jerked away from Melanie's hand, pressing itself so hard into Kari's arms, it almost disappeared under her elbow. Its ears flattened. Its body shook. It whimpered, not the confused whimper of before, but a terrified cry. People in the crowd inhaled sharply. Animals don't fake fear. Animals don't play along with lies. A woman in medical scrubs stepped forward. I work at an animal hospital, she said. That puppy is terrified of you. That's not how a dog reacts to its owner, especially not one that's bonded or trained. She's clinging to the girl for safety. Melanie's mouth fell open. That's not fear, she sputtered. That's confusion. The woman shook her head. No, that's fear. I've seen it 1,000 times. Kari sat there frozen, the puppy gripping her like she was the only safe person in the world. She whispered softly to the dog, It's okay. You're all right. Her voice steadying despite her fear. The officers had seen enough. Daniels looked straight at Melanie with calm authority. Ma'am, the dog in your photo does not match this animal. Airport security has your actual emotional support dog. The family from Terminal B reported a missing puppy that matches this one. Melanie shook her head violently, her voice cracking like thin ice. No, 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 you're all wrong. That girl took her. She must have switched them. You don't understand. People do things like that. She tricked everyone. A chorus of scoffs and groans rose from the crowd. One man snapped, Lady, stop! You got caught. A younger woman said, Just apologize and walk away. But Melanie couldn't let it go. Not even now. She pointed at Kari one last time, her face red, her eyes wild. This isn't over. I know what I saw. But the truth was no longer something she could shout into existence, because the family searching for the missing puppy was only minutes away from walking into Gate C12. And when they arrived, everything would come crashing down in front of every camera pointed at her. The truth was coming, and there was no escaping it. The officers tried to settle the crowd, but the air around Gate C12 buzzed like static before a storm. Everyone watched Melanie, some with disbelief, others with disgust, others with their cameras still raised. But Melanie wasn't watching them. Her eyes stayed locked on Kari, as if her entire world depended on proving this child guilty. Kari sat frozen, arms wrapped protectively around the tiny puppy. Her fingers trembled under its soft fur. The dog stayed glued to her, refusing to budge, its little heartbeat racing against her chest. Kari swallowed hard and said nothing. She didn't trust her voice not to crack. Officer Daniels' radio crackled again. Daniels, the family looking for the missing puppy is heading your way now. Should reach Gate C12 shortly. Every person within earshot paused. That single sentence was like a spotlight turning on, revealing what was about to happen. Melanie stiffened. What family? She demanded. They're mistaken. They're confused. That's my dog. Daniels didn't react to her tone. He simply said, We'll verify everything when they arrive. Melanie let out a shaky laugh that sounded close to breaking. You think a random family is going to stroll up and claim this puppy? That's ridiculous. Someone from the crowd whispered loudly enough for others to hear. She's in real denial. A teen boy holding up his phone muttered, I'm live right now. People are furious. But Kari wasn't thinking about the crowd. Her mind replayed her grandmother's voice over and over. You don't let anyone strip away who you are. She breathed slowly, steadying herself. Daniels crouched slightly to her eye level. "You okay?" he asked gently. Kari nodded even though she wasn't sure she was telling the truth. Before anyone could say more, a small voice cut through the tension. "Mom, I see her. That's her. Daisy." A little boy came running through the crowd, weaving between legs with the frantic urgency only a child searching for something precious could have. Behind him, his mother and father rushed forward, scanning the area with desperate eyes. The puppy in Kari's arms changed instantly. Its ears perked, its tail thumped wildly. Its whole body wriggled with joy. There was no confusion, no hesitation, just instant recognition. The puppy nearly leapt out of Kari's arms trying to reach the little boy. The mother gasped, covering her mouth with a trembling hand. "Oh my goodness, Daisy!" The father's eyes filled with relief as he exhaled shakily. "We've been searching everywhere." Carrie carefully lowered the puppy to the floor, and it sprinted toward the family, yelping in pure happiness. The boy dropped to his knees, laughing and crying, at the same time as the puppy covered his face with frantic licks. The crowd melted into soft gasps and warm smiles. A few people even clapped, except Melanie. She stood rigid, eyes wide, face pale, not from guilt, but from disbelief that the truth had dared to contradict her. That doesn't prove anything," she stammered. "Dogs get excited for anyone. They're friendly animals." The entire crowd turned toward her with the slow disbelief usually reserved for people who insist the sky isn't blue. The mother hugged the puppy tightly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, turning toward Carrie. "Thank you for keeping her safe." Carrie blinked fast, holding back her own tears. "I just didn't want her to get hurt," she said softly. The father stepped forward. "You're a hero, truly. We were terrified." Their gratitude was real, raw, and overwhelming. But Melanie couldn't stand it. She pointed at them wildly. "Don't you people get it? That is my dog. She's confused. She was scared. She doesn't know what she's doing." The father looked at her as if she'd spoken another language. "Ma'am, our puppy is 6 months old. She has a specific flea collar. Her name tag is in her carrier. We have vet paperwork. We've had her since she was 8 weeks." The mother lifted Daisy gently. "And she knows us." The puppy licked her cheek affectionately. Melanie's jaw worked desperately, grasping for another lie. She could have stolen the paperwork too." Daniels finally straightened, his patience nearing its end. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "your emotional support dog is safe with airport security. They found your dog an hour ago. This puppy belongs to this family. There's no question about it." Melanie's arms fell limp at her sides. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, you're all ganging up on me. You're twisting everything." A woman in the crowd snapped, "Nobody had to twist anything. You did this yourself." Another voice called, "Just apologize and go. This is embarrassing." But Melanie wasn't hearing them. She swung her glare back to Carrie, the child she'd humiliated, insulted, and nearly had detained. "This was all your fault," she hissed. The crowd reacted instantly. A man stepped forward. "Hey, enough! You falsely accused a kid." A young mom added, "She protected your dog?" "No, she protected their dog. You should be apologizing to her." Even the little boy hugged Daisy tighter and frowned at Melanie. Carrie stared at the ground, feeling the weight of every second, the chaos, the fear, the shame, everything she'd been forced to endure. Daniels exhaled slowly. "Ma'am, I'm escorting you to security so you can retrieve your actual dog. And after that, you're going to be documented for creating a disturbance. Let's go." Melanie didn't move. Her face hardened into something cold and furious. "You're all making a mistake," she snapped, voice shaking. "Just because you want to believe her doesn't make her innocent." The entire crowd's anger simmered, and then she said it, the line that sealed her fate. "You people always stick together." A hush fell. Phones zoomed in. Eyes narrowed. Daniels stepped between Melanie and Carrie. "That's enough. Let's go." This time his tone left no space for argument. He guided her away as she sputtered and protested, but her words had lost all strength. No one listened anymore. Every camera followed her back as she walked away, exposed, angry, and utterly alone. Carrie stayed seated, hands still shaking, the echoes of her grandmother's voice holding her upright. And the story wasn't over yet, because as the puppy's family gathered around her, something would happen next that Carrie never expected, something that would change her life far beyond Gate C12. The chaos slowly melted into something softer. Danny, the officer who had protected her, stepped away to speak with the family, giving Carrie a moment to breathe. The puppy's joyful barking still echoed through the terminal as she bounced between the mother, father, and little boy. Every sound of their reunion felt like a warm light pushing back the shadows of everything Carrie had just gone through. But inside, she felt hollow, shaken, like her body was still in the middle of the confrontation, even though it was over. The mother approached her first, holding Daisy gently against her shoulder. Her eyes were still red from crying, but her smile was warm. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "you saved her. You really saved her." Carrie blinked, unsure how to respond. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a kid who had been screamed at in front of an entire airport. "I was just trying to help," she whispered. The father stepped up beside his wife. "Most adults wouldn't have done what you did," he said. "It's loud here, busy. People walk right past lost animals all the time, but you stopped. You paid attention, and you kept her safe until we found her." Carrie looked down at her hands. "Anyone would have done that." The father shook his head. "No, they wouldn't have." The little boy walked forward, clutching Daisy's tiny paw in his fist. He stared up at Carrie with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you for helping my sister," he said. Daisy barked as if agreeing. The boy explained, "She gets scared when she's lost. She doesn't like loud places, but she liked you." That made something warm flicker inside Carrie's chest, a tiny spark that pushed back against the fear still clinging to her. The mother placed a gentle hand on Carrie's shoulder. "You have a good heart," she said. "Whoever raised you did an incredible job." At that, Carrie felt her throat tighten. "My grandma raised me," she said softly. She always tells me to help when I can." "Well," the mother said with a smile, "your grandma should know she raised someone truly extraordinary." More people from the crowd stepped forward now that Melanie was gone. A businessman in a navy jacket offered a respectful nod. "You handled yourself better than most grown-ups would have," he said. "I hope you know that." A college-age woman added, "You stayed calm the whole time. I don't know if I could have done that." Even the teen girl who had filmed the entire confrontation walked up, her phone lowered. "I'm posting this," she said. "Not the ugly part. The part where you stayed strong and helped the puppy. People need to see that." Kari felt overwhelmed by all the attention, but every word felt like a small bandage placed gently over the wounds Melanie left behind. Daniels finally returned and cleared his throat. "Everything's sorted," he said. "That woman's dog is safe. She's being escorted for further questioning." His voice softened as he looked at Carrie. "You did everything right." Carrie tried to smile, but it came out thin and shaky. She hated that she felt embarrassed, even though she'd done nothing wrong. Daniels crouched down again. "Listen," he said gently. "I've been doing this job a long time. I've seen a lot of people panic and point fingers, but I've never seen a kid handle a situation with as much grace as you. That woman tried to tear you down, and you stayed true to yourself. I want you to remember that." Carrie nodded slowly. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so," she whispered. Her voice trembled, betraying her. Daniels gave her a sympathetic smile. "That's okay. You've been through a lot today." The mother stepped closer. "Is your family waiting for you at your destination?" she asked. "My aunt," Carrie replied. "My grandma couldn't come because she's recovering from surgery." The father brightened. "Well, your aunt is going to be so proud." The mother added, "And when you get home, tell your grandmother you made a whole airport cheer for you." The thought made Carrie's eyes sting with emotion. The little boy tugged on her sleeve. "Can Daisy say bye?" Carrie knelt down, and Daisy rushed into her arms like she had been waiting for the invitation. The puppy nuzzled her cheek, tail wagging wildly. Carrie laughed, a small, real sound, and hugged her gently. "You're such a good girl," she whispered into the dog's soft fur. "I'm glad you found your family." When she let go, Daisy whined and pawed at her, as if she didn't want to leave. The mother shook her head with a smile. She really bonded with you, she said. Dogs know good people. That sentence wrapped around Carrie's heart like a hug. As the family prepared to leave, the father took a business card from his wallet and handed it to Carrie. If you ever visit Dallas again, call us, he said. Our home is open to you anytime. Carrie stared at the card, touched by the kindness. The mother hugged her quickly, careful not to startle her. Thank you, she whispered again. You have no idea how much this meant to us. They walked away slowly, Daisy bouncing happily in her boy's arms. Carrie watched them disappear into the terminal until the last glimpse of the little golden head vanished behind a crowd. For the first time since the accusation began, she exhaled fully. Her hands still trembled, but the weight pressing on her chest had loosened. What she didn't know, not yet, was that the story wasn't just ending there. Something unexpected was already happening. Phones were still recording. People were still talking. And somewhere in the airport, the first video of her encounter was already being uploaded. By the time her plane took off, Carrie's quiet moment of kindness would start traveling farther than she could ever dream. Carrie stayed seated for a moment after the puppy's family walked away. Letting her breathing settle, the terminal noise slowly returned to normal. Rolling suitcases, boarding calls, kids whining for snacks, but she still felt like she was floating outside her own body. Everything had happened so fast. Too fast. People kept glancing her way, not with suspicion or judgment, but with something closer to admiration. A few offered small waves. A couple mouthed, "You okay?" Kari nodded even when she wasn't sure. Her escort guardian, the airline employee assigned to accompany unaccompanied minors, finally returned after the commotion. She had been dealing with boarding prep during the chaos and looked horrified when she learned what happened. "Oh my goodness, sweetheart, are you all right?" she asked, crouching beside Carrie. Carrie shrugged, brushing a tear off her cheek before anyone else could notice. "I'm okay," she whispered. The escort squeezed her shoulder. "You didn't do anything wrong. You hear me? You handled yourself like a champ." Carrie nodded again. "Can we just go to the plane now?" "Of course," the escort said. "Boarding starts in a few minutes. You stay close to me, okay?" Carrie stood and picked up her bag. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced herself to walk forward. People stepped out of her way, some giving her gentle nods, as if they understood something heavy had been lifted off her shoulders. As they waited in the pre-boarding area, she noticed a group of teenage girls huddled together with their phones. One of them gasped softly. "That's her," the girl whispered. "The brave kid from the video." Kari's stomach flipped. The escort followed her gaze. "Don't worry," she said gently. "It's people supporting you, not the other way around." Carrie didn't answer. A sick feeling worry tugged at her chest. She didn't like being recorded. She didn't like that strangers across the internet were already watching her worst moment. What if people twisted the story? What if they believed Melanie? Her grandma always said, truth stands on its own 2 feet, but online, truth sometimes limped. "Hey," a soft voice said beside her. It was the older woman who had defended her earlier. The silver-haired lady with the steady, no-nonsense tone. She walked up with a warm, comforting smile. "I didn't get to say this earlier," she said, "but I'm proud of you. You didn't crumble, even when that woman threw every ugly thing she had at you." Carrie looked up, surprised. "Thank you," she said quietly. The woman continued. "What that lady did was cruel and unjust. But you showed real character. You didn't yell, you didn't lash out. You held on to yourself. That's rare." Carrie didn't know what to say. It felt strange to be praised for something that had felt like survival. The escort called her name. "Sweetie, it's time for pre-boarding." The older woman gave her a quick hug. "Safe travels, darling. And don't ever forget who you are." Carrie walked toward the boarding gate, her badge swinging against her chest. Just before she stepped onto the jet bridge, she glanced back. The crowd watched her with warm eyes, supportive, protective, grateful. It felt like the universe had reached out and wrapped a small blanket around her bruised heart. On the plane, she was seated near the front, next to the window. The escort helped her store her bag and buckled herself into the seat across the aisle. Kari leaned against the cool window glass, closing her eyes. A few minutes passed before the escort spoke again. "Sweetheart, I don't want to upset you," she said gently, but I need to tell you something. Carrie opened her eyes slowly. That lady, the one who accused you, she's been escorted to airport security. They're reviewing everything. She paused, and a lot of people recorded what happened. I know, Carrie whispered. I saw them. The escort nodded. The videos are spreading fast. People are standing up for you. They're calling you brave, kind, responsible. Carrie stared at her hands, confused. Why? I didn't do anything special. The escort smiled softly. Sometimes doing the right thing, especially when someone tries to tear you down, is the most special thing you can do. Before Carrie could answer, a voice from behind spoke up. Is that the girl? Two passengers who had also witnessed the incident were taking their seats. A man leaned forward. Hey, kiddo, you were amazing out there. His wife added, my daughter's your age. I hope she grows up to be as strong as you. Carrie flushed, unsure how to take the kindness the plane filled slowly, row by row, until everyone was seated. As it prepared for takeoff, Carrie pressed her forehead to the window, watching the airport grow smaller outside. She wished her grandma were here. She wished she could bury her face into her grandma's chest and just cry until the shaking stopped. But instead, she whispered the words her grandmother always said before hard moments. Lord, steady my heart. The engines roared to life. The plane lifted off. And somewhere on the ground, the videos of what happened were already spreading far beyond the airport walls. Strangers were sharing them. Strangers were commenting. Strangers were defending her. And one stranger in particular, someone with a very large following, was about to see the video, react to it, and change the trajectory of Kari's next few days in a way she never saw coming. Because the internet wasn't just watching. It was about to take her story and carry it to millions. By the time the plane touched down in Dallas, Carrie still had no idea how much the world outside had changed. She didn't have Wi-Fi during the flight. She didn't see the comments. She didn't see the duets. She didn't see the millions of people who had already taken her side. All she felt was the leftover heaviness from the airport, like pieces of the confrontation were still hanging on her skin. When the plane rolled to a stop and people began unbuckling their seatbelts, Carrie stayed still. The escort smiled at her across the aisle. We're here, sweetie. Your aunt should already be waiting at the gate. Carrie nodded and grabbed her small backpack. Her hands still shook a little, but she tried to hide it. As they walked off the plane, she kept her head down. It didn't occur to her that people had already seen her face online. It didn't cross her mind that strangers recognized her now. She thought she was slipping quietly through the crowd like any other kid. She wasn't. A woman near the terminal entrance whispered to her husband, That's her, the girl from the video. A teenager gasped and whispered, She looks so sweet. I can't believe someone did that to her. Carrie had no clue. She walked beside the escort toward baggage claim where her aunt was waiting. Her aunt, a tall woman with a warm voice and soft eyes, broke into a run the moment she spotted her. There you are, baby, she cried, wrapping Carrie into a hug that finally felt like safety. Carrie's throat tightened. She buried her face into her aunt's shoulder, breathing in her familiar scent of lavender and laundry detergent. The tension she'd been holding since the airport in her hometown poured out of her all at once. Her aunt pulled back and cupped her face. Are you all right? You look pale. Carrie nodded weakly. It was a lot. What happened? Her aunt demanded. Before Carrie could open her mouth, a voice nearby called out, Ma'am, excuse me? A woman approached holding her phone. She looked kind, hesitant. Is this your niece? She asked. Carrie's aunt frowned. Yes, why? The woman gently rotated her phone screen. A paused video filled it. The chaos at Gate C12, Melanie yelling. Kari sitting quietly, clutching the puppy. The crowd watching. Kari froze. Her aunt's eyebrows lifted. What on earth? The woman spoke softly. Your niece went through something terrible today, but she handled it beautifully. The whole internet is talking about her. Carrie's stomach dropped. The whole internet? Her aunt scrolled through the comments on the woman's phone. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Protect this girl at all costs. She handled that better than adults I know. That woman should be ashamed of herself. This kid is an angel. Give her a trophy. Someone find this girl. I want to send her a gift. Her aunt stared at the screen, stunned. Sweetheart, You didn't tell me all this happened. Carrie shrank back slightly. I didn't want to worry you. Oh, baby, her aunt breathed, pulling her into another hug. You didn't deserve any of that. More people began passing by, recognizing her from the viral video. A teenage girl waved shyly. You're amazing, she said. A couple stopped and offered warm smiles. Carrie clung to her aunt, overwhelmed. Let's get you home, her aunt whispered. On the drive from the airport, her aunt played one of the videos that had already reached nearly 2 million views. Carrie watched herself on screen, small, frightened, holding the puppy as the woman towered over her. Hearing the hateful words again made her stomach twist. Her aunt reached over and held her hand. You're safe now, she said gently. And you should know, you have the whole world behind you. Carrie leaned her head against the window, still processing. Her aunt wasn't lying. Notifications were exploding across social media. Strangers were stitching the video, praising her kindness. Calling out Melanie's behavior, a civil rights lawyer had posted a breakdown of the encounter. A popular animal rescue page had shared the puppy reunion moment with the caption, "Real heroes come in small sizes." But the biggest wave came from one person. A celebrity with over 12 million followers had reposted the clip with the caption, "This broke my heart. That little girl showed more grace than most adults could. Someone find her. I want to help." Carrie didn't know about that yet. She didn't know that tabloids and news sites were already running stories with headlines like, "Child wrongly accused in airport confrontation receives massive support online." She didn't know that people were asking to send her gifts. She didn't know that someone started a hashtag with her name. She didn't know that Melanie's company had released a statement trying to distance themselves from her behavior. All she knew was the warm pressure of her aunt's hand and the exhaustion crawling through her bones. When they reached her aunt's house, Carrie walked inside slowly, feeling safe for the first time all day. Her aunt helped her settle on the couch with a blanket and hot cocoa. But before Carrie could even take a sip, her aunt's phone buzzed repeatedly. She glanced at it, frowned, then looked at Carrie. "Baby, you might want to see this." She handed the phone to Carrie. On the screen was a message request from the world-famous influencer. It read, "Hi, sweetheart. I saw what happened at the airport. I want to talk." "You are incredible." Carrie stared at the message, stunned. Her life, which had begun that morning with a simple airport routine and her grandmother's soft wisdom, was now spiraling into something she never asked for. But it wasn't over yet, because by the next morning, someone else would speak up, someone no one expected, someone who had been silent through everything. Until now, Carrie barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Melanie's face, twisted with anger, pointing at her, shouting lies that still echoed in her ears. Even wrapped in a warm blanket on her aunt's couch, surrounded by safety, something inside her stayed tense and curled tight. Her aunt sat beside her long after midnight, rubbing her back and whispering, "You're safe now, baby. Just rest," until Carrie finally dozed off. Morning sunlight drifted through the curtains when she woke up. The quiet hum of the house felt peaceful, almost unreal after yesterday's chaos. Carrie stretched slowly, blinking away sleep, trying to convince herself it was over. Her aunt peeked into the living room. "There you are," she said with a soft smile. "I made breakfast." Carrie nodded and followed her to the kitchen, where pancakes and strawberries waited on the table. She took a seat, but before she could take a bite, her aunt's phone buzzed again. Her aunt sighed. "My phone hasn't stopped since last night. Journalists, bloggers, random people. Everyone wants to talk to you." Carrie's stomach tightened. "I don't want to talk to anyone." "You don't have to," her aunt said gently. "I'm not letting anyone near you without your permission." But then she hesitated, as if there was something else she wanted to say, but wasn't sure how. Carrie set down her fork. "What is it?" Her aunt pulled out her phone, scrolling before placing it face up on the table. A new message request. The sender's profile picture made Carrie's breath catch. It was the little boy from the airport, Daisy's owner. His name was Liam. His message read, "My mom says thank you again. We didn't get to say everything yesterday. We want to talk to you if that's okay." Carrie stared at the screen, startled. "He found me?" Her aunt chuckled softly. Sweetheart, half the country is looking for you. It wasn't hard. Carrie's hands shook slightly, nervous but curious. What does he want to talk about? Why don't we find out? Her aunt said warmly. Only if you want to. Carrie nodded slowly. Her aunt typed back, and within minutes, Liam's mom asked if they could video call. Carrie almost said no, but something inside her nudged her to face at least one good thing tied to the chaos. When the screen lit up with their faces, Liam waved excitedly, holding Daisy in his lap. The puppy barked happily the moment she saw Carrie. She remembers you, Liam grinned. Carrie smiled shyly. Hi, Daisy. The mom leaned closer. We wanted to thank you again. Properly. You already thanked me, Carrie said softly. No, the father said gently, appearing behind them. Not like this. The mom exhaled. Sweetheart, what happened to you yesterday was wrong. Very wrong. And we want you to know something important. Carrie tilted her head. When we found Daisy, the mom continued, we weren't just relieved, we were grateful. For you. And we want to make sure you're protected too. Carrie blinked in confusion. Protected? The father stepped in. People are talking about everything that happened. Reporters are asking questions. Some folks are digging into that woman's behavior. It's bigger than what you saw. A knot formed in Carrie's stomach. I don't want trouble. You're not in trouble, the father said quickly. But someone else is. Before Carrie could ask who, her aunt's phone buzzed again. A notification, another viral update, another wave of comments, another clip being shared. Her aunt frowned and tapped it open. Carrie watched her aunt's face shift from confusion to surprise to disbelief. What? Carrie asked, anxious. Her aunt slowly turned the screen toward her. This new video wasn't from a bystander. It wasn't from a stranger. It wasn't even from a news page. It was from one person no one expected to speak up. The woman from the airport. Melanie. Her face filled the frame. No makeup, eyes red, expression exhausted. It wasn't the same woman who screamed accusations and slurs. This version looked hollow. Kari's breath caught. Melanie took a shaky breath and began speaking. If you're seeing this, she said, voice hoarse, you've probably seen the videos from the airport. I owe an explanation. Carrie's aunt raised her eyebrows. Oh, now she wants to explain. Melanie continued. I said things I shouldn't have. I said things that hurt a child. Things I can't take back. She paused, face crumpling for a moment. I thought that puppy was mine. I panicked. I let fear take over. Then pride. Then anger. She looked away from the camera. And yes, I said something terrible. I made a comment that people are calling racist. And they're right. Carrie's eyes widened. Melanie's voice broke as she continued. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I attacked a child who was helping. I made assumptions because of her skin. And I'm ashamed. The comments on Melanie's video scrolled. Angry, critical, furious. But she kept talking. I'm sorry. To that girl. To her family. To everyone who watched me behave in a way I thought I'd grown past. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say this. She ended the video with a whisper. I hope she's okay. When the video finished, the room went silent. Kari's aunt muttered, well, that's something. Liam's mom on the video call sighed. I wish she had apologized at the airport, but this matters too. Carrie didn't know what to feel. She didn't trust the apology. She didn't know if Melanie meant it. She didn't know if she should care. But she did know this. The story wasn't done. Because while Melanie's apology flooded the internet, someone else stepped forward too. Someone who had been watching the videos closely. Someone who wasn't offering apologies. Someone offering something else entirely. Support, opportunity, a chance for Carrie to use her voice in a way she never imagined. Carrie stared at the screen long after Melanie's apology faded out. She didn't know how to feel. Her chest felt tight with a mix of confusion, anger, and something else she wasn't ready to name. Her aunt reached over and gently closed the phone. You don't have to respond to that, she said softly. You don't owe her anything. Carrie nodded, but her mind was still tangled. She didn't want to be angry. She didn't want to forgive. She didn't want to hate. Mostly she just wanted to forget. The video call with Daisy's family was still active. Liam's mom spoke softly, as if sensing the heaviness settling around Carrie. "You don't have to process this right now," she said, "and you don't have to watch her video again. That apology was for the world, not for you." Carrie looked down. "Why didn't she say it to me at the airport?" The father sighed. "Because some people say sorry only when everybody else is watching." That hit something deep inside Carrie. Her aunt leaned forward. "Baby, how do you feel about it?" Carrie shook her head. "I don't know." And she meant it. She didn't know if she wanted to scream or cry or just pretend none of it had happened. She didn't know if she was supposed to feel better because the woman apologized. She didn't even know if she believed the apology. Liam's little voice came through the phone. "She was mean to you." Carrie winced but nodded. "Yeah." "You were nice," he said matter-of-factly. "That's the difference." Daisy barked as if backing him up. Carrie couldn't help smiling a little. Her aunt finally ended the call with Daisy's family after exchanging a few more kind words. The house grew quiet again, but the peace didn't last long. Her aunt's phone lit up once more, buzzing nonstop. Carrie groaned softly. "More people?" Her aunt glanced at the caller ID, and her eyes widened. "Oh, this one's different." Carrie sat up straighter. "Different how?" Her aunt answered the call. "Hello?" A polished voice came through the speaker. "Hi, this is Mariah Knox. I'm calling from the Youth Community Leadership Council." Carrie frowned. She'd never heard of it. The woman continued. "We saw the video, and we saw the way your niece handled herself under pressure. We'd like to talk about an opportunity." Carrie blinked. "Me?" "Yes, sweetheart," Mariah said warmly. "You." Her aunt put the call on speaker. "Carrie," Mariah said, her tone steady and professional. "Every year we select a handful of young people across the country who show exceptional character. Kids who show empathy, courage, and calm in difficult situations." Carrie froze. "We saw what you did," Mariah continued. "You protected a helpless animal. You stayed respectful, even while being mistreated. You held your dignity. And because of that, we want to invite you to speak at our annual youth conference." Carrie's heart slammed against her ribs. "Speak?" Mariah laughed softly. "Don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. You'll just share your experience. Talk about kindness, about standing firm, about staying true to yourself." Carrie glanced at her aunt, who looked stunned, in a good way. Mariah continued, "We want you to know that what you did, it matters. You turned a bad moment into a lesson for millions." Carrie swallowed. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything now," Mariah reassured. "Think about it. Talk with your family. This is an opportunity, not an obligation." Her aunt's eyes softened. "Thank you for calling. We appreciate it." After they hung up, her aunt turned to her. "Baby, do you know what this means?" Carrie shook her head. "It means people see you. Not the girl in a confrontation, not the kid someone yelled at. They see the strength in you, the kindness." Carrie looked down at her lap. "I didn't feel strong." "That's usually when people are strongest," her aunt said softly. Before Carrie could respond, her aunt's phone lit up again, this time with notifications, messages, mentions, tags, articles. Her aunt scrolled through them, eyebrows lifting higher and higher. "What now?" Carrie whispered, exhausted. "This is big," her aunt breathed. "You're trending everywhere. News channels picked it up. One of the biggest morning shows wants to feature your story. Organizations are reaching out. People are sending supportive messages from all over the world." Kari's mind spun. "Why me?" Her aunt cupped her cheek gently. "Because you were put in a moment that showed the world who you are." Kari didn't know whether to feel honored or terrified. Then her aunt said something that made her heart stir. "We don't choose the moments that test us. They just come. But you chose who to be in that moment." Her eyes warmed. "And you chose right." Kari's throat tightened. "I just did what Grandma taught me." Her aunt wrapped her in a tight hug. "And you made her proud." But even as she held her aunt, Kari felt a strange pull deep inside, a whisper of something unfinished. Because while the internet moved fast, her heart moved slow. Praise didn't erase the pain. Support didn't erase the fear. Opportunities didn't rewrite what she'd lived. And as the day unfolded, as messages poured in and well-wishers kept calling, Kari kept waiting, for one voice she hadn't heard yet, her grandmother's. The woman whose wisdom had carried her through that entire nightmare. Her aunt noticed her silence. "You want to call Grandma?" Kari nodded. Her aunt dialed. And as the phone rang, Kari braced herself. She needed to hear her grandmother's voice, but she had no idea that the conversation waiting on the other end would shift everything inside her more than any apology, any praise, or any viral video ever could. Kari held the phone tight as it rang. Her palms were damp. Her heartbeat felt loud in her ears. All the noise from the world, the videos, the messages, the compliments, the anger, the apology, none of it mattered right now. She just needed her grandma. When the call finally connected, a familiar voice answered, a little raspy but warm as sunlight. "Hello?" Carrie's breath hitched. "Grandma, it's me." There was a soft pause, a tiny inhale. Then, "Oh, baby." Her grandmother's voice broke into a smile you could hear. "I've been waiting for your call." Carrie's eyes filled instantly. "Grandma, something happened at the airport." "I know," her grandmother said gently. "Your aunt told me you went through something hard." Kari's aunt must have sent a message that comforted her. At least she didn't have to explain from scratch. Kari's voice trembled. "It was really bad." Her grandma took a slow breath. "Tell me what you want to tell me." So Kari did. She didn't talk fast. She didn't tell everything at once. She didn't use fancy words. She just spoke in small pieces. The kind you can only give to someone you trust about seeing the lost puppy, about trying to help, about Melanie shouting, about the fear, about the insults, about people watching, about the moments she thought she might not get believed about the boy and Daisy, about the apology video, about the internet exploding. Her grandmother didn't interrupt. She didn't gasp. She didn't say anything except small murmurs to show she was listening. Kari wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. "Grandma, I tried to stay calm. I tried to be respectful. I remembered what you say about dignity, but I was so scared." Her grandmother exhaled softly. "Baby, staying calm doesn't mean you weren't scared. It means you were brave while being scared." Kari swallowed. She kept saying, "you people," like she already decided who I was, like she never saw me at all. Her grandma sighed. "Some folks look at you and see only what they expect. They don't see you. They see their fears, their assumptions, their ignorance." Kari's voice shook. "Why? I didn't do anything wrong." "You didn't," her grandmother said firmly. "But prejudice never waits for a reason. It finds a target and fires." Kari closed her eyes. Her grandmother's words sank deep. "Baby," her grandmother continued, "I'm sorry you had to face that. Truly sorry. But I want you to hear me now." Kari wiped her eyes again. "I'm listening. That woman tried to take something from you that she never had the right to touch. Your sense of self. Your light. But you didn't let her. You stayed who you are." Kari shook her head even though her grandmother couldn't see it. "I didn't feel strong. That's because strength don't feel like strength when you're using it," her grandmother said gently. "Sometimes it feels like shaking hands in a breaking heart." Kari breathed slowly. "Look at how you handled it," her grandmother said. "You protected that puppy. You didn't yell. You didn't retaliate. You didn't let her pull you into her darkness. You stood taller than her without standing up at all." Kari let out a small, shaky laugh. "It didn't feel tall. That's because you're still the one inside the moment," her grandmother said. "Everybody else sees how high you stood." Kari's aunt, who'd been standing quietly nearby, wiped her own eyes. Her grandmother continued softly. "I saw the videos." Kari's stomach dropped. "Oh, you think I'd let the whole internet talk about my granddaughter without checking myself?" Her grandma teased lightly. Despite everything, Kari giggled a little. Then her grandmother's voice softened again. "Baby, you made me so proud." Tears spilled down Kari's cheeks. "Really?" "Oh yes," her grandmother said. "You didn't just keep your dignity. Your light helped guide that little dog back to her family. And it showed the world something too." Kari's breath shook. "What did it show them?" "That you can't judge a child by the color of her skin," she said. But you can judge a grown woman by the ugliness of her heart. Carrie sat silent for a moment. Her grandmother added, and you showed that a kind heart is louder than hate, even in an airport full of strangers. Kari felt something heavy lift from her chest. Not all the way, but enough for her lungs to fill again. Now, her grandmother said, switching to her practical tone, your aunt told me people are reaching out, opportunities coming your way. Yeah, Carrie whispered. Someone wants me to speak at a conference, and there's a celebrity who wants to talk to me. Mm-hmm, her grandmother hummed. And how do you feel about all that? Carrie hesitated. I don't know. I didn't want to be famous or anything. Her grandmother chuckled. Baby, fame don't matter. What matters is purpose. If you choose to speak, make sure you're speaking from who you are, not who the world expects. Kari nodded. Okay. And baby? Yes, Grandma? That apology video? From that woman? Kari tensed. Yeah. You don't owe her forgiveness. Carrie let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. You forgive when your heart is ready, her grandmother said. Not when the world tells you to. Not when the person wants to look good. Only when you choose. Carrie whispered. I'm not ready. That's fine, baby, her grandmother said. Just don't let bitterness take root. Leave a little room for healing. Carrie breathed slowly. Okay. Her grandmother shifted, then said gently, now tell me, are you feeling a little bit lighter? Carrie looked at her aunt, at the warm kitchen, at the sunshine, at her own hands, steady now. Yeah, she whispered. A little. That's all we need for today, her grandmother replied. When the call ended, Carrie felt something inside her settle. Not completely, but enough. Her aunt hugged her from the side. See? She's proud of you. We all are. Carrie rested her head on her aunt's shoulder. Grandma makes everything make sense. Her aunt smiled. That's her gift. Carrie took a deep breath. The world still felt big. The attention still overwhelming. The story still raw. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't lost. She wasn't powerless, and she wasn't defined by what happened to her. Because in all the noise, praise, anger, and chaos, she had stayed herself. And that was enough. The world might remember the viral video. But Carrie, she would remember the puppy's trust, her aunt's safety, and her grandmother's voice saying, Baby, you stood tall.